Hey, what's going on everybody? It's Tyler here. Today I'm going to be showing you how to persistently store data with Electron, and I'm going to be giving a practical example with storing the position of the window, so when the user opens up the application, it'll always go back to where it was on the screen. So let's get started. So today we are going to resume where we left off in our Svelte Electron application. It doesn't matter, we're not even going to be dealing with the front end, but all we have right now is a index.js file and a preload script and a settings file with blank functions that are just getting exported. One of them is a function called getWindowSettings. It has a default value of pixels like 800 by 650. And we have a saveBounds function, which is going to take in a bounds. That's all we have, so let's get started. So one of the packages we're going to be using for this is Electron Store. So if you simply go down to your text editor and type in npm install electron-store, what you'll see is this package should install pretty quickly. And what this package does is it allows us a easier interface to write to the file system using JSON-like syntax. For example, here is the documentation on npm. I highly suggest you check it out if you want more detail. But we could simply say something like store.get and pass in a key value pair and retrieve that information. Formally, we can also delete as well as set values, and it's very easy to use. So let's get started. So now that we have Electron Store installed, I'm going to go over to the settings page and come up here and just follow their documentation. Basically, we need to create some sort of store. So I'm going to do const store is equal to require electron-store. Now that we have this store, we can actually create our store variable. I'm going to call it storage is equal to a new store. And we can pass in objects or settings here. For example, we could pass in what type of data we're expecting it to be, kind of like a schematic. But for now, we're just going to be going with a store like this. Okay. Now, what we want to do is say when the user starts up the application, instead of hard coding in like 800 by 650 pixels here, what if we want to dynamically get the data from their last session? So what we can do is I'm going to just do this, const bounds is equal to, and up here in our settings file, I'm going to call this function getWindowSettings, and you can see we're exporting it down below. So I'm going to call it getWindowSettings, and I'm also going to bring in our saveBounds function as well. So we're going to say const bounds is equal to getWindowSettings. And we're going to make this a, there we go, perfect. So this is going to be a function that returns simply the window settings. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to do bounds of index 0 and bounds of index 1, aka the x and the y. Perfect. Now to actually do this function, we are going to first check if the storage exists. So I'm going to do const size is equal to storage.get, and it takes in a key. So we're going to look for the size, win size, we'll call it. And with that, we can now check if it exists. So if size, we're just going to return the size. Because if size exists, then we can just return it. Else, if it does not exist, what we're going to do is we're going to say storage.set, and we're going to pass in the same thing, win-size. And we're also going to pass in our default bounds. Because for my application, I think 800 by 650 will look just fine. So we'll pass in these default bounds, and we will return the default bounds. Perfect. So just like that, we have read from storage, as well as if the storage does not exist, aka if the user deletes the directory that it's stored in, or if it's their first time launching the application, then we can set it and then return the bounce. Now, I would recommend doing your own error handling. but I'm not going to do that for the sake of a short video. So now that we have this out of the way, I'm just going to console.log these bounds when we start up the app, and we will see how it looks. So I'm going to come over here to my terminal. I'm going to type in npm start, and it is going to build our svelte and start up the application. And what you can see is right here, we have 800 by 600 pixels, and here it is, 800 by 650 is in our terminal. Perfect. Now, what if we say move the window like this? Like, what if we do this and we close it? We want the window to go back to that same location on the next load. But as you can see, it doesn't do that. So how do we do that? Well, it's pretty simple. With Electron, we're given access to the window. And with the window, there's a lot of properties like window.on resized, which will basically tell us what happens or an event when the window resizes. And what we want to do is save our bounds this time. So we're going to save the bounds, and we're going to pass in the window.getSize function, which returns an array with a width and a height. So if we want to save the bounds, we can just pass in these bounds whenever the window is resized. Now let's actually implement this function. So it's pretty simple. All we have to do is do storage.set, and we're going to do win-size, and we're going to pass in our bounds. Perfect. Just like that. And what I'm also going to do is I'm just going to console.log bounds saved, and then we're just going to pass in the bounds. There we go. Okay, so now when we restart the application, what you'll see is it should still remember our bounds as 800 by 650, but watch what happens when I do this. You can see that we have a very large window now, and if we go into the console, we can see the bounds are saved at 1422 and 639. So if we restart this, we expect the window to be that size. And let's see. And sure enough, the window remembered its size. So that is that for Electron storage. I figured it would be a pretty practical example since everyone likes it when you open up an application and it remembers the size and all that. If you wanted to implement the same thing for the actual position of the window, you could also do a similar thing. For example, window.on moved will tell us when the actual application moved, and we can just do console.log window.get position. There we go. And you could store this the exact same way. In fact, for example, when we start up the application, we could also throw in the position, for example. So you see when we move it, watch what happens. Down here, we're getting our X and Y positions. So if I move it all the way to the top, you can see it's 913. And if I move it all the way to the bottom right, it's going to be a very big number. Yep, 1075 and 520. And this will tell us exactly where our window is. For example, if I move it off screen to a secondary monitor, you can see the window bounds go to 2628 and 152. So that is how we can actually store data with Electron using the package Electron Store, as well as using it with a practical example of storing the positions so that way when the user restarts the application, it'll remember the size. If you found this video useful, please like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace.